Forbidden houses of pleasure of ancient Egypt. Greetings, friends. Before we begin, make yourselves comfortable. If you enjoy what I do, don't forget to like and subscribe, but only if it truly resonates with you. And in the comments, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is in your part of the world. It always fascinates me to see how people from all over the globe come together to explore history with us. Part 1. The Secrets of the Nile's Passion, where ancient luxury and vice were born. When we think of ancient Egypt, majestic pyramids, wealthy pharaohs, and wise priests usually come to mind. But there was another, hidden side to this civilization, forbidden and mysterious, rarely mentioned in school textbooks. Along the banks of the Great Nile, behind the walls of temples and lavish palaces, life was boiling with passion and secrets. This was the world of pleasure houses, which today we would call brothels or elite houses of entertainment. These establishments were not marginal or entirely secret. On the contrary, they played an important role in both social and religious life. In ancient Egypt, sexuality was not considered sinful. Egyptians believed that through physical pleasure, one could achieve harmony with the gods. Many deities were directly associated with fertility and passion: Hathor, the goddess of love, music, and joy, and Min, a symbol of masculine power. Surviving texts and temple wall images show us that pleasure was not merely tolerated, it was celebrated. However, behind this apparent freedom lay dangers. Pleasure houses were not just places of entertainment, they were arenas for political intrigue, information trading, and even rituals that would shock a modern person. Imagine the bustling streets of ancient Thebes. As the evening heat fades, life comes alive. Merchants call out to customers, musicians play harps, and in the shadows, you can spot houses decorated with colorful frescoes and glowing red oil lamps, symbols of secret rendezvous. Inside, the destinies of nobles, commoners, priests, warriors, merchants, and mercenaries intertwined. Rumors spread faster than the Nile's current, and a single whispered word could cost someone their life. Inside, the atmosphere was mesmerizing. Walls were adorned with mythological scenes, soft mats added comfort, and the scent of incense mixed with rare wines. But entering was no simple task. The doors opened only to those who could pay, with money, influence, or services. Today, archaeologists continue to unearth fragments of these enigmatic places, amulets, cosmetics, and even love letters on papyrus. Each discovery gives us a key to understanding how ancient Egyptians viewed the world of pleasure and desire. In the next part, we'll take a closer look at what these houses of pleasure looked like, who visited them, and the secrets their walls once held. Part 2. The appearance of pleasure houses along the Nile. When we say brothel, most people imagine dark alleys and shabby rooms. But in ancient Egypt, it was entirely different. Pleasure houses were not just places of indulgence, they were like miniature palaces, built to satisfy both body and soul. These establishments were usually located in major cities where life thrived: Thebes, Memphis, and later, Alexandria. Egypt was a hub of trade. Caravans passed through, soldiers arrived, travelers and merchants flocked in, and all of them sought not only food and shelter but also entertainment. Pleasure houses ranged from modest places for the poor to luxurious establishments for the elite. Design and atmosphere. The entrance to an elite house of pleasure was carefully decorated. The outer walls often featured frescoes depicting Hathor, the goddess of love and desire. Above the door, there was sometimes a symbol, a red oil lamp, signaling the nature of the establishment. Upon entering, guests were enveloped by rich aromas, a blend of myrrh, lotus, and cedar. Egyptians believed scents were essential to pleasure. In the reception hall, musicians played, and women danced, creating a festival-like atmosphere. The private rooms were small yet cozy, soft mats, painted walls, and protective amulets decorated with precious stones. Some elite houses even had cool water pools, allowing guests to refresh themselves before or after their visit. This wasn't just a place of passion, it was a social center where deals were struck, alliances formed, and secrets exchanged. Who visited these places? Contrary to popular belief, there wasn't strict social segregation in Egyptian pleasure houses. While the wealthy could afford lavish luxuries and the poor only simple services, the two worlds often overlapped. Pharaohs and nobles used these houses for secret meetings or informal political negotiations. Warriors and mercenaries visited before campaigns, believing it brought good luck. Merchants and traders treated these houses as clubs for exchanging news and striking deals. Fun fact, priestesses of Hathor sometimes visited these establishments as part of sacred rituals. For Egyptians, sexuality and religion were deeply intertwined, and there was almost no boundary between the sacred and the profane. Part 3. Women of Ancient Egypt, Keepers of Passion and Power. Women working in pleasure houses occupied a dual position in society. On one hand, they were sought after and respected, on the other, they were vulnerable to prejudice and political manipulation. Many women entered this world against their will. Slaves captured in wars were often sold into elite pleasure houses. However, there were also those who chose this path voluntarily. Why? For some, it was the only way to escape poverty and gain control over their lives. In the most prestigious houses, women were far more than servants. They were trained in the arts of dance, singing, music, and the secret techniques of seduction. These women became not only lovers but also advisors to powerful men. Surviving texts refer to them as flowers of the Nile, symbols of beauty and mysterious influence. Some women reached incredible heights of power. Historians believe many became lovers of pharaohs or high priests, subtly influencing political decisions. Their beauty was their weapon, and they often knew more secrets than palace spies. However, this knowledge was dangerous. Women who knew too much often disappeared without a trace. Part 4. Rituals and the Sacred Side of Pleasure. In ancient Egypt, sex and religion were deeply connected. For Egyptians, physical pleasure was a way to honor the gods of fertility and renewal. Certain pleasure houses hosted special rituals that outwardly resembled orgies but carried profound spiritual meaning. Hathor, the goddess of love and joy, was the main patroness of these rites. Festivals were held in her honor, filled with dance, music, and indulgence. Women working in pleasure houses often acted as priestesses of pleasure. These rituals were believed to unite mortals with the divine, ensuring the fertility of the land and prosperity of the kingdom. Some ceremonies were exclusive, open only to pharaohs, high priests, and their closest allies. One ancient papyrus describes a dance of rebirth, performed by a priestess before the statue of the god Min, symbolizing masculine power. Archaeologists have found images supporting the existence of such practices. However, not all scholars agree. Some believe these rituals were simply a cover story to legitimize ordinary brothels in the eyes of society. Part 5. Politics and Passion, where Egypt's fate was decided. Elite pleasure houses were centers of information and influence, not merely places of pleasure. Within their walls, plans were whispered that could change the fate of Egypt. Here, one might overhear news of upcoming military campaigns, conspiracies against the pharaoh, or secret alliances being formed. Women and house owners often acted as informants or intermediaries in political games, serving powerful factions or religious groups. In many ways, these pleasure houses functioned like ancient intelligence hubs, cleverly disguised as centers of entertainment. There's even a record of a conspiracy being thwarted thanks to a woman working in one such house, who leaked information to loyalists of the pharaoh. But sometimes, it worked the other way around. Plots were born within these very walls, later shaking the kingdom. Part 6. Wine, Music, and Ancient Narcotics. Pleasure houses weren't just about sex, they were places of refined entertainment. Guests were offered exquisite food, wine, and intoxicating substances. Wine, especially red wine imported from afar, was highly prized and symbolic of joy. But even more intriguing were the narcotic herbs and mixtures used to enhance pleasure and induce sacred trances. Archaeologists have discovered vessels containing remnants of hallucinogenic substances. These were likely used for rituals, causing vivid visions and altered states of consciousness. Music was equally vital. Harps, flutes, and drums filled the air with rhythms believed to intensify physical ecstasy and bring participants closer to the divine. Part 7. Secret codes and symbols. These houses didn't openly advertise their services. To gain entry, one needed to know the special signs and symbols used by both clients and workers. For example, a lotus flower or a jackal figure carved near the door hinted at the nature of the establishment. Men who visited elite houses often wore bracelets with specific patterns as a subtle signal. Women working there had distinctive necklaces featuring symbols of Hathor or Min. This intricate system helped protect the secrecy and exclusivity of these places. Part 8. Protecting client secrets. These houses served high-ranking individuals, so confidentiality was paramount. Owners created elaborate systems to ensure anonymity. Each client was given a pseudonym used only inside the establishment. Real names were strictly forbidden. Hidden rooms and secret passageways allowed powerful visitors to come and go unseen. Breaking these rules had dire consequences, sometimes even death. As a result, workers and owners became trusted keepers of secrets, knowing their survival depended on absolute discretion. Part 9. Archaeological evidence. For centuries, pleasure houses were regarded as legends. But archaeology has confirmed their existence. In Thebes and Luxor, frescoes depicting festivals and erotic scenes were uncovered. In ancient Alexandria, remains of a building were found whose layout matched descriptions of pleasure houses in historical texts. Artifacts discovered include bronze mirrors, cosmetic kits, jars with perfumes and oils, papyrus fragments with erotic drawings. These findings provide tangible proof that such establishments truly existed and played a significant role in society. Part 10. The end of the era of pleasure. Over time, as Egypt came under Greek and later Roman influence, attitudes toward pleasure began to change. New religions and moral codes gradually replaced the old ways. Pleasure houses either disappeared or were forced underground. Yet, even thousands of years later, their legacy lives on. These places left a lasting mark on culture, myths, and legends. Modern archaeologists and historians still debate their true role: were they sacred temples of love or simply places where money and desire ruled?